Okay. Clean and sanitize, and then I'm just going to wash my hands real quick. Okay. First, there we go. First, we're going to start off with our bottle blower. Alright. So first we're going to start off with some milk. And we're going to put it to just under boiling point. And next, we're going to start off by blooming our gelatin. Just going to put it in this bowl of cold water and set it off to the side. Next, we're going to put our egg yolks. Our sugar. And we're going to whisk them together. I'm going to set those aside until the milk starts to heat up. And in the meantime, we're going to start cooking our jam. We're going to take all our ingredients and put them into the pot. Steven, can you hear me? We're just going to give them a quick little stir together. And we're going to put them here. And while those are cooking, I'm just going to quickly spray my pans as we get ready to do our cake. Alright, so we're going to have our 2 cake pans, and we're going to set those aside for now. And we're going to start with our egg whites. For our cake. Alright. Just let the milk kind of cool for a minute if it gets kind of hot. Stir the jam as it starts to boil. We're just going to let the milk kind of cool for a moment. And slowly add in the sugar. We're going to bring over the milk. And very slowly add it to the egg mixture. This is called tempering. And basically we're trying to create a custard, but we're not trying to cook the egg. So don't add too much at a time, or the heat will curdle the eggs, and you'll just get a bunch of scrambled eggs. Gelatin, and you're going to gently squeeze out any excess moisture. Just kind of whisk it in until it dissolves. Pour it back into the pot. And then we're going to put it back on the stove. At about 150. our jam. We are working on our chiffon cake. First we started by whipping these egg whites to stiff peaks. All the dry ingredients together so that we don't have to take the extra time when mixing it into the batter so that it doesn't make the batter too tough. So we're going to take the opportunity right now to kind of mix all the dry ingredients together at once to get an even distribution throughout the batter. And we're going to cook the bavla gently until it coats the back of the spoon. Now it's kind of runny right now, so it's not ready yet. It really needs to thicken up. So the egg whites are starting to get shinier, more opaque, but they're not quite ready yet. So as you can see, the jam's kind of boiling. That's what we want. We want like a rolling boil, so we want to wait for it to heat up even more. And we're just going to keep a real close eye on our custard because we don't really want it to start getting too eggy. And we don't want to let it boil. This will result in a setting failure. So now that the egg whites are completely whipped up to stiff peaks, we're going to take it off the mixer and we're going to start the yolks in the yolk batter mixture in a new bowl. Right away, mix this up. Just kind of loosen up the eggs with the vanilla and everything. Keep a close eye on our jam and our custard, especially the custard. You really have to watch it to make sure that it doesn't boil over or that it doesn't start getting too thick and eggy on the bottom. Now we're going to slowly add our oil. then we're going to start slowly adding our milk. Let that jam boil for about 4 minutes. Just to let everything mix together and the sugar dissolves so that it sets and it becomes nice and smooth. And we're also going to check on our bavois, continually making sure that the bottom isn't getting too thick. We're not getting any of those thick, crumbly pieces. Temperature up a little. Alright, now we're going to turn the mixing speed down just a little as we start incorporating our dry ingredients. Add them in there. And then just to make sure the things on the edges get mixed in, we're just going to turn it up to high for just a minute. And we're actually going to scrape the bowl for a minute. Okay. Now just once more. Turn up to high for a minute. Alright. We now are at about 40 minutes in our time. So now in about thirds, we're just going to start to stir together, fold together the egg whites and the cake batter. Just going to pause for a sec just to check on my bavois. Make sure everything's thickening appropriately and isn't getting thick. And the jam can boil for another minute or so before straining. Okay. You can do this. As you can see, it's starting to get lighter in color, fluffier. Okay, so now just to tear it off, I'm going to weigh this bowl, tear off the scale. And I'm going to weigh batter. Typically I get about 2.7 or 2 pounds 7 ounces, or at 2.78. So to divide that off, I want a pound and 3.9 ounces. We're just going to pause for a minute to strain our jam. And we're going to carefully lift it, and we're going to strain it very slowly so we don't get a lot of splashing. And we're just going to kind of stir through it like so to try to get all that liquid through. We want to get like no seeds in there because the seeds make it better. So now we kind of have this pulp, and we don't want any more of this pulp getting through. So now we're going to take this, we're going to put it in a cooler, and we're going to chill it to make it set. And we're just going to briefly check on our bavois. As you can see, it's getting a little crumbly, but it's starting to thicken up. It is almost to the point where it's coating the back of that spoon. Put that there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the pan here. And then we're going to put the rest of the batter in this pan. So now we have 2 even cakes. Take this offset spatula, and we're going to try to spread it, trying to go in one direction, not pulling back because then it would pull the paper back. Finish it all the way through, and then if you want to go another direction, start in a new direction. Yeah, see, it lifts the paper up, so we want to gently finish it through. Alright, and we want to just make sure it's even as we can possibly make it. Okay, now we're going to do the other one. Alright, we have our finished chiffon cakes. We're at about 32 minutes, 33 minutes. And we're going to start the construction of our cake. Now, normally for run-through purposes, normally I would be rolling the cake layer and putting the jam on, but I was unable to do that for this run-through. So to compensate for the time that it would have taken to do that, I am going to cut both of the Swiss rolls, where normally I would have it pre-cut, and then I would have one that I would cut. Put a towel under my cutting board, make sure it's secure. Check on our bavois, and you see our bavois now coats the back of the spoon. So I'm going to turn the stove off. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put it into this bowl. Now this bowl looks really big for this mixture, but when we mix the whipped cream and the mango puree with it, it'll take up a lot of that bowl. Just leave that there. Okay. Okay. So we have our gloves. And we have our bread knife. Now we have our bowl lined with plastic, so we're just going to start by cutting 1-inch slices. Try to make them as even as you can possibly make them. Try to eyeball it real straight with the knife. If you have to, you can use a guide like a cake cutter, a ruler. It all depends on how thick you really want your cake to be, but we want it typically about 1 inch thick. Before I start cutting the other one, we're going to start placing them in this bowl, and we're going to try to pack them kind of tightly, starting from the middle going outwards. Pack them as tightly as you can, while still trying to kind of maintain the shape of the swirls. But it's more important to not have the bavois coming through than it is to have the shape of the swirls. Alright. Some more rolls. So we're just kind of pressing them together, trying to see little to no space in between them. Cutting a few slices at a time because the thickness is going to be a little bit different for the very bottom, and we do want to save some of the rolls for the bottom of the cake. So just kind of even it out with the height. Press it all down. Alright, we're going to set that aside for now. And we're going to take out some of our raspberry jam. We're also going to get started on whipping the whipped cream for our bavois. Now, we're not going to flavor this whipped cream with like powdered sugar and vanilla and all that, because this whipped cream is solely for giving the bavois inside volume, and the bavois is already going to have flavor with the mango puree, so it's unnecessary to flavor the heavy whipping cream in this situation. So we're just going to start that. Alright, I'm going to take this bowl scraper. We're going to pour a bit of raspberry jam. Start with 1/4 of a cup. I usually just eyeball it and use it as needed, but if you really would like to know the exact amount that you might need, I would say anywhere from about 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup. And spread it all around the inside. Make sure you have a bowl scraper that can definitely get into all those edges, depending on the dimensions of your bowl. You can make this cake larger, smaller. If you make it significantly larger, you might have to make some more Swiss roll cakes in order to compensate for the amount more slices that you'll need. Just going to give it an even spread inside there. Okay. We're going to take out our mango puree and set it aside for the moment, but we are going to eventually mix that together. So we're going to set this aside, and we're going to start cutting into our mango. That's going to go in the middle. So I'm going to show you how to prepare a little bit of the mango. So here we have a ripe mango, kind of soft and fleshy. And we're going to make about 1/8 to about 1/4 of an inch slices vertically, trying not to cut all the way through the flesh. We're trying not to slice the skin. And we're going to do it the other way. Now you can even, if you do rip it through the flesh to make it easier, and cut it off into kind of chunks. And just start by cutting about halfway through. We also can use a spoon, if desired, to get the bottom layer off. It's really up to you. You can cut it off. You can scoop it off like this with a spoon. It all depends on how big of a mango piece you're dealing with, or type of mango, because sometimes it's easier to use a knife, and sometimes I find it easier to use a spoon. Give it a nice rough chop just to make sure they're all pretty small. And I'm just going to wash my hands really quickly. We're at about 23 minutes. Hands really well. Okay. want to get this whipped cream up to stiff peaks. We got some new gloves. And you want to keep an eye on your custard, because if you really have a lot of time, you should let your custard cool for at least 20 to 30 minutes, but not too long and not in too cool of an environment, because then it will begin to set without you putting it in the cake, and that's not what we want. You can always heat it back up, but once you add the whipped cream and the mango puree to your mixture, you cannot go back and heat it up. So if you want to add a certain consistency before you put it in the cake and before you mix the whipped cream and the puree with it, you want to make sure that you have it at the exact temperature that you want. Okay, so now we can see it's thicker, kind of shiny. Just going to pour this puree in. I'm focused right now. I'm sorry, but I'm doing something for competition. I promise I will talk to you later, okay? It's okay. I don't mean to be rude, I'm just... Okay. So now, we're going to take our whisk, and we're just going to whisk together this puree until it turns like a light orange. It's kind of like, more now it's like a light orangey color, and it's thoroughly mixed in. And then I'm going to put this whipped cream in. We're going to whisk it in. Now, initially I was going to fold it in, but I like to whisk it in to kind of help it set up a little better, get everything mixed more evenly. And just by going back and forth like this will really help to still incorporate a lot of air into it. Just kind of break up that chunk of whipped cream. Keep mixing it together until you don't see these little chunks and it starts to get even paler, even thicker. That's what we want. So then it's going to set up real nicely. Stiff, but not too stiff. But we do want the cake to be able to stand up, so we want it on a little bit of the stiffer side. Going back and forth like this to incorporate more air into it. Alright, now we're not going to start too much because then it'll start to get really tough. So, that in there. We're going to take our cake and we're just going to pour custard, the bavois, till it almost kind of starts to reach the top. And we're going to sprinkle our mango pieces sporadically throughout the cake. Now, if your bavois is a little more liquidy, they'll start to sink. And as they set, then they'll kind of like freeze in place. Okay. Alright. And you can always save this mango for a later use. But there, pour a little bit more bavois in there. And you can always put this bavois back and you can save it for another use. Like I like to put it between two just half sheets of chiffon cake, and that makes a nice like kind of a mango raspberry like custard cake almost. And so now we're going to take what's left of the other Swiss roll, cut sort of thin slices, maybe like 1/2 inch slices. And these are going to be our bottom. First, we're going to take a paring knife. We're going to cut about 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the bavois, so we can let the bavois rise as we add the base pieces. So I'm going to go around the bowl. Alright. We're just going to gently kind of let them float on the top. Take the half pieces and just kind of fit them in where needed. You can cut them to size like this so that they fit better inside there. Just to kind of give a firm base for the cake to sit on. There. Now we're just going to carefully take this, it's kind of wobbly, and we're going to cover it with plastic wrap. We're going to lightly press the plastic wrap on top of there so that as it sets, the plastic wrap can kind of hold it down there. And we're just going to let it set. You should preferably chill it overnight, or at least a couple hours. I would say at least 4 to 6 hours. Now, we're going to start decorating. Now this heavy whipping cream we are going to flavor because we want this one to taste sweet because it's going to be going on the outside of the cake. Okay. So, set this aside for a moment. So we're just going to take a moment to clean and sanitize our station. Take a moment to wash my hands. Chef Rob, we don't have a garbage can. I might as well not now. I mean, look at all that garbage on the table. Evan. Coming through, coming through, coming through. Okay. We have to turn up the heat a little. Turn up the speed. Alright, now we're going to peel the plastic wrap off of here. Put the cake board on here and flip it out. Easy as that. Now make sure it's centered before lifting the bowl off. Just lift. And there you have it. This is the cake before decorating. This is after it's set overnight. We're going to spread some glaze on it, some apricot glaze. And just lightly, don't press down too hard because you don't want a whole lot of crumbs. We're going to glaze the outside of it, just enough to give it a nice kind of shiny look. As you can see, the whipped cream's starting to thicken. Put it around, make it nice and shiny. We have now 9 minutes and 51 seconds left. Bottom. Let me change my glove real quick. A little messy. Okay. Now, we're just going to fill this piping bag with the 823 Ateco Star Tip. Fill this with whipped cream. A little bit more in there. Alright. Now we're going to start piping zigzags about an inch or two around the base of the cake at about an inch or two high. Back and forth. And if you do, try not to stop piping, but if you do, try to do it when it's at the bottom of the zigzag because it's better to hide with your piping than it would be if you stopped at the top. Okay, about 8 minutes left. We're going to line the top edge with shells. Alright, set that down for a moment. We're going to get out some fresh raspberries. And we're just going to stick them on top about every other shell. at an inch or so apart, I guess. We are going to need one more raspberry. So we're going to take these back out real quick. And we're going to take a chef's knife. We're just going to cut all the way through straight down, nice and evenly. Take a towel, wipe our knife off so we don't get any residue that we might have gotten on the cake when pulling it out, so we get a nice clean piece. And go back through one more time.
We have 5 minutes left.
I'm going to slide it off onto the plate. Wait, don't go away, because then you're going to have to take the finished piece off. And we're just going to pipe a little fleur de lis. And we're going to add a fresh raspberry to it. Alright, there's my piece.
I can take this?
Yes. Alright.
This cake too? Oh, that's gotta go in there, right?
Put I know, but the more the better.
Very good. It's a good thing.
Yes.
You don't have to rush.
I know, but I still like having a sense of urgency. Are we allowed to unwrap this before I go in there? Okay. What? What did you say?
Put these in the oven.
Yes. But wait. You're about to take the final cake with you. So just, like, I don't know, put them on the line or something. Okay. And there's my final cake. So you may take that. It starts blinking red. Wow. Because, you know, that's not unsettling. That ominous red blinking.
You're looking for the red sometimes.
Right. Alright. Are the judges going to help me unplug things, or is that my job? And now, we're just going to quickly take the butane out of here. Almost done.
Box truck is 20. Can you get it? But I never got. Who did you send it to? I think you can go to Rock. What's the room? Right box. Sorry.
Well, actually,
Done! 2 minutes and 18 seconds left.
so so I can